Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for True show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Phillip, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Phillip was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for Truth show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, and it's a pleasure to be back with you again today. A lot of you have been asking, how do I avail myself of the previous episodes? And you go on YouTube, A Time for Truth show, and you click on the subscribe button. You'll be availed of all our previous episodes and become our member. We'd love to have you. So tonight, we have a special show because our world is lacking in something. And what is it lacking in? It's lacking in leadership. It's lacking in example. It's lacking in what used to really exist in our world, discipline. And where do we get that from? Well, we get that not only from our parents, obviously, but from those mentors, those special people, the coaches, the professors, the people who care, the religious leaders, who instill those values in them. And in our young, kids, youth, the future of our country. And so tonight we have a very special show because we have such a mentor. And we're going to introduce him to you right now. And if we put his pictures up on the screen, engineer, Mr. Phillip Gary, a graduate of Thornton Township High School in Harvey, Illinois. And there you see him. He was number 4 all-time league scorer and number 3 all-time rebounder with his Thornton team, which he led to a 27-2 record his senior year. There you see him coaching and mentoring. And during his senior year, he earned All-State and Championship MVP and the SICA North Conference Player of the Year honors. Mr. Gary played at Cal State Long Beach University under Coach Tex Winter, who was the innovator of the famous triangle offense, which the Chicago Bulls used to win 6 NBA championships and the Los Angeles Lakers used to win 5 NBA championships. He then transferred to Quincy University, where he helped the Hawks to the NAIA National Tournament as a junior. There you see him again, coaching and mentoring. Mr. Gary graduated with degrees in social work and criminal law and had a stint with the NBA Kansas City Kings. Went on to play 3 years in the European leagues, winning Rookie of the Year with an amazing 38.8 per game scoring average and attaining league MVP honors and being voted foreign player All Nations Cup, where he won a bronze medal and led in scoring and steals. He retired from the Chicago Board of Education and Transit Authority, having coached on all levels of basketball, from head coach of NCAA Division Chicago State to working camps for the Fort Wayne Mad Ants of the NBA G League tryouts, and also the NBA G League Combine, and many other European and Asian camps. In 2000, after finishing his basketball career, he decided to found the Basic Fundamentals Basketball Player Program to promote academics, life skills, teamwork, and he's also been a strong supporter of drug education via the Foundation for a Drug-Free World program. And if you will, engineer, let's bring up Mr. Phillip Gary live on screen, and let's bid him a warm welcome to A Time for Truth show. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Definitely glad.
It's a pleasure to have you, and I want to get right to it because there's really so much I want to cover with you. What I was going to ask you, when you were a young man, what were your dreams and aspirations?
I want to go to the NBA by any means necessary. But I came from a house full of women. My grandmother, great-grandmother, and mother, they were strict disciplinarians, and you had to have a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale to play basketball. They would always say, don't come in here with no 2.99999. You may be eligible at your school, but you're not eligible in this house. I wanted to make it like every kid.
Very interesting. So, I was going to ask you, because there's so many highlights to your career, but how did it feel when you led your Thornton High team to that amazing record and you earned All-State Player, you were SCICA North Conference Player of the Year? Share with us how that felt for you back then.
Well, back then, in high school, they've always been a powerhouse in the state of Illinois. And I just wanted to be one of those who people would think of, oh yeah, I remember him. So, my 4 years in high school, we were ranked every year real high. We won every summer tournament or every fall tournament, but I just didn't win the big one. I had trophies for everything during the summer, just before the preseason, but I just didn't win the big one. And we had the opportunity to go downstate when I was in 8th grade. We lost, and we had this shirts that we wore, and it had a date downstate in 1978, and we wore them every other Friday, just to prove. People laughed at us, you guys are not going nowhere. So we didn't make it downstate, but we was one of the most exciting teams in the state. And the game was set for us to play Lockport, but we lost to Bloom Township, which we had murdered two times. It's hard to beat a team 3 times, but you gotta take the good with the bad.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? So then you had an amazing high school career, and you went on to play at Cal State Long Beach under Coach Tex Winter. So what was it like? Because this guy innovated such an important part of basketball with that triangle offense. So tell us a little bit of what it was like to play with him and under him.
Well, when Tex recruited me, he was at Long Beach. He was at Northwestern in the Big Ten. So we were practicing one night for the high school all-star game, and he came to me and Craig Hodges, and he started talking to us. And I was like, Coach, my grades are good, but I don't want to go to Northwestern. And Tex was like, Phil, I have a new job. I'm at Cal State University of Long Beach. Would you be interested? And I was like, yes, Coach. And it just took off from there. Coach Winter developed me as a basketball player and as a young man. And he makes all his players student athletes. You know, I wanted to come home. The first day he had us out there, he gave us a test on basketball. You know, he wanted to know if we knew the length and the width of the basketball court, the height of the rim, what the ball exactly weighed. I'm like, man, I come to play basketball. I didn't come to, take another math class. But it's like he opened up my, my life, my eyes. A young kid going to a hockey game. We had to go to plays. We had to go to museums. I'm like, man, I come to play basketball. I'm not here to do all this and that and to get my education. But Coach Winter was a caring person. And, and just the way he was, he'd always say this when he come to practice, howdy, man.
Well, you know what? Sounds like he was a great guy, like you said, and he really cared about the people he was mentoring. And then, then from there now, then you go overseas, and, I was reading about your accomplishments overseas. So, tell us a little bit about overseas. Where did you end up going in the overseas leagues?
I was over in San Marino. I was over in Malta. I was in Rome, Sicily, Catania. It was just want to play. Young guy want to play basketball, make a little money, and just enjoy yourself. And it's good to go and see how other people live in their country. Because everybody look at America as everybody was at that time. They thought I was like J.R. Ewing. You got all this money and land, but just learning how other folks live, man. And so like going over to the Philippines, I thought, you would say something like, "Oh, I'm from the projects," but when you go and see how they live, I went in a neighborhood that I'm like, man, we used to say we were poor, but where they stayed, and I lived in the projects, man, that'd have been a mansion to them. you know. So I'm ready. I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to, play basketball and use that as an avenue to go all over the world to get paid and to meet people and get a free education playing the kids' game.
It makes a lot of sense to me because every time I travel, I see things that I really not used to, and I realize that our way of living is not the only way, and it really opens you up. I agree with you totally that I think one of the problems we have in our world is we live so isolated that we think there's only one way, which leads to a lot of these conflicts that occur because you're only looking at what you want to do or what I want to do. And so it's not a very big viewpoint, which, kind of interesting because now you go to Europe and now you're going to take on even more because now you become a head coach. So you're going to really have to take on all these young guys. Now you're no longer the young guy. So what was it like now when now you're the coach and it's Chicago State? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, at Chicago State, it was difficult because nobody from Chicago wants to go to Chicago State. Most kids want to go out of state. And Chicago State, we were losing. Out of the 10 non-conference games, we had to play 10 ranked teams, well, 9 ranked teams on the road in their spot. We were winning. We were getting all the money. We was raising all the money for track and baseball and wrestling and swimming, but we was going out there getting murdered. You got to play. You got to play Missouri at Missouri, Illinois at Illinois, Michigan State at Michigan State, Gonzaga at Gonzaga. you know, and you really didn't have a chance because you had other teams with McDonald's All-Americans, and you just had guys out there that loved the game of basketball and wanted to play. But I've always told them that on any given day, if you believe in yourself and believe in your teammates, we can surprise a few teams. you know. And then, like I said, for Coach Winter, we played Iowa, and Dr. Tom Davis was the coach. So I went in there for the shoot around, and Dr. Tom said, I have a phone. You got a phone call. I'm like, man, who calling me here? It was Coach Winter. So Coach Winter was telling me, hey, how do you feel? How you? He said, let me tell you what you need to do. He said, get you a 7 or 8 man rotation. Take that $50,000 that they're gonna give to the school, and because you're gonna get your behind handed to you on a plate, and you took his advice.
What a good sense of humor, and you got such a variety. So what I wanted to ask you is now you founded this basic fundamentals basketball program, and I know you're strong. You have a strong voice in this program, and you believe in certain fundamentals. So tell us a little bit about why you decided to do this and what it is that you're trying to instill in these youth that you feel is important for them to have.
Well, every coach that I played for, I thought was crazy. I didn't get along with them, or I thought I felt they were crazy. But coming up the line, I'm like, this coach is crazy. Now I got this new coach, he's crazier, you know. And I just, like going to Long Beach State with Tex Winter. Here I go from a top-ranked high school basketball team to with my freshman year, we were rated number 6 in the country. And it's just I didn't think I would be a good coach because I didn't get along with my coaches until after I played for them, went to another coach that was just as crazy. And then when I was in Italy, I played with a coach. Only thing, Italian coach, only thing he used to tell me, a Russian coach, the only thing he used to tell me, you mustn't lose the power struggle. So I'm like, are we playing basketball or lifting weights? But starting up with basic fundamentals, my grandmother and great grandmother and my mother were always pushers of to dare greatness, to be the best that you could be in whatever you do. And I always thought about that. And if you look at today, you know, I always start off a camp or clinic. I ask a kid, do you know how many seconds it is in a day? Do you know how many minutes it is in a day? Do you know how many hours it is in a week? And I said, if you're a basketball player, how big is the backboard, length and width? And they looking like, I said, no, I'm not talking about brain surgery. I said, coach, I'm not good in math. I said, you shoot a free throw, right? You know how to bank the ball off the backboard. That's poetry and mathematics in motion. So just wanted to, I always had to go to school. My mother and grandmother, all of them, they always said, because you want to be sick. Oh, I'm sick. I can't go today. But my grandmother was like, if it's game day, you go. So if you sick, you go to school. If you sick, and the nurse, that's what she get paid for, she'll tell us, she'll call us, and we'll come get you. So, and they was always like, each one teach one. And that's what I always thought about. That's why I came up with the basic fundamentals. You teach, because you think about your kindergarten teacher and your first grade teacher, you love them. But then you get that second grade and that third grade teacher, like, hey, they hard, they difficult, they mean. And I have it now where I have my ex-players have, bring their kids to me, and my ex-players' grandkids come. Well, this is my coach. My coach, man, he made us do this, he made us do that, which they don't do today.
Makes a lot of sense. And, you recently told me a story that I think is important because, it makes us all realize that life has stages. And like you said, when you were young, these coaches that you had seemed like crazy to you. And then here you go in life, and now you become a coach. And then sometimes when we're young, we think we're immortal, or we want to just get what we want. And then later on in life, we see that it happens to us. And there's something that you went through recently that I thought was very interesting. And then I have a video that, you watched that you enjoyed that we're going to put on for the viewers because I think it's an important message. And it's part of what Phil Gary has to offer the world to wake people up and maybe to get people to realize how important people are, that it's not just cell phones, computers, stock market, how much money you have in the bank, but that people actually can help each other and in a tremendous way. So I wanted you to tell that story, what happened to you the other day, because when you told me, it really hit me, and I think it's important that we get this message across to people. So go ahead, and engineer, I want you to get the video ready, okay? So go ahead and tell the story.
I was going to do a camp in the clinic, and I was doing 3 in one day. I finished the first 2, and both of them were in the rough. So I'm going to do the third. For some reason, I didn't want to go to the front door. There's a lot of media, a lot of people out there, politicians and everything. I said, well, let me go to the back. So I'm walking around the back, and I get to the alley, and I'm usually looking around my surroundings to know what's going on. So I had my head down. When I lift my head up, and I saw 2 young men, and they had a gun. They had guns. They put them up like in my face, and I'm like, oh my God, all what I preached about. Nah, I'm finna be robbed or something, or shot or whatever. So they looking at me, and I'm looking at them, and we're walking. So this young kid comes run out the back door. Hey, what are you guys doing? That's Coach. He's getting ready to train us. Man, you better leave him, Coach, come on in here, Coach. Man, y'all get on out of here. Guys took the gun, put it in their pocket, and ran back down the alley.
But I think it's an amazing story, and it shows you how important that it's interesting because here you've given so much of yourself to these young kids in this community, and then here you are in peril of maybe losing your life, really, if you really look at that. God knows what could have happened, right?
Oh man, there was so much going on. You had so much going on in Chicago, the South Side, West Side, and it's just chaos. But everybody's intentions, most people's intentions are to do good. And just when something like that happened, because I'm usually around, dealing with these youth, they get in trouble, and just being an ear for them, somebody to listen, somebody to lean on. But then I've been around guns and stuff, but for something like that, for somebody to point a gun at you and they looking serious and you like, I'm usually a comedian, but when they put that gun up, I was like, I was real serious then. And then when the young man came out and said what he said, and guys took off running, and what's crazy about it is I hugged him and we talked after the camp. He was like, man, if they'd have did something to you, you probably would have never came back over here or you wouldn't want to work with us. You know what I'm saying to myself? Next time you'll see me, it'll be on Skype.
Well, you know what? We got a great video. Engineer, put this video on, please. Put the video on, please. Put the video on, please.
Hey, how you doing? Good. Hey, girl, Nicole, good luck on the play tonight. You're welcome. What's up, guys? And you're gonna make sure that you return those on Monday, right? Thank you. Oh, nice.
We talked to you for a second. Go ahead, get the water. Come on, let me get the water. Just kidding. Man, get out the way.
So, You know what? That kind of like is like what you went through. It's very interesting because we've got to do what you're doing, what Phil Barnes is doing. You're helping people, you're helping young people specifically, and it's changing the world. What I want to do, because we've had such a good time, the show has flown by, we got about 45 seconds left. What concluding statement would you like to leave the viewers out there of what you think is important in our world, Mr. Phillip Barnes?
The main thing is to each one teach one. I tell all the guys in the mornings, what's wrong with saying good morning, good afternoon? Because sometimes that might be the best thing that that will hear in a day. You know, just show a little love, because being nice and polite and friendly goes a long way. Because you don't know what that other person have experienced that night before or early that morning. But like my grandmother we used to get up in the morning like, good morning. I'm like, we just get up. Why are you saying good morning? Because she said some people didn't get the opportunity to wake up and say good morning. So it's a give and take.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? It's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and I want a friend of both you and me. I want to validate someone who actually, like you, does a lot for the world. Retired Globetrotter Bobby Hunter. And Bobby Hunter, thank you for what you do, for getting people like Phil Barnes and Dr. Ben Fialkoff together, and other people down in New Orleans, in California, in Chicago, in Florida, all over the world you go. And so, Phil, thank you for being on the show, and I look forward to doing Drug Free World with you, with your group on discipline and sports. You got it right there, I see. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for being on the show with us.
Thank you.
Well, you know what? I know Chicago is going to be at a better place, and we'll have to have one of those Harlem Globetrotter basketball games in Chicago with your group, with the Drug Free World, and we're going to bring some education and fun into Chicago. What do you think of the idea?
That's perfect. That's perfect. I'm riding with you, especially with Bobby.
Well, thank you for being on the show. And for those of you watching the show, let's follow Phillip Barnes' lead. Let's really do something for real with the people who are going to take care of us when we're young. When we get older, those young people are going to take care of us, right? So, like him, take his experience. Look at how those young people that he helped ended up probably saving his life and what could have happened. So when you look at everything we have in the world, let's preserve probably the best thing we have in our world. Young people, humanity, and moving forward in life. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode of A Time for Truth show. Good night.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet